Exodus, Exile and Redemption. Section 5. Yosef and his brothers. Chapter 10. A most peculiar and remarkable Gematria. I offer you, dear reader, an observation that emerges only when words are weighed rather than read. A wondrous Gematria, drawn from a verse at the heart of the Yosef narrative, alludes to a halachic teaching that seems to bear no connection whatsoever to its theological intricacies, yet proves upon reflection to illuminate them with striking harmony. Recall the verse describing the fear experienced by Yaakov and Yosef's brothers upon emptying their sacks and finding silver hidden inside. Quote, "And they saw their bundles, they and their father, and were afraid." Genesis 42:35. The Hebrew text, Tzroros kaspehem hemo va'avihem vayirou, encodes a precise numerical correspondence that yields a phrase drawn from the laws of damages. Kaspehem hema equals 215, which equals chatzi nezek, and vayirou equals 233, which equals regel. When the words in the verse are replaced with their numerical equivalents, the phrase resolves into tzroros chatzi nezek va'avihem regel. Damage by pebbles carries half liability, deriving from its father category, foot, regel. This describes a law governing liability for harm caused by animals. In the laws of damages, a father category, av, is a primary mode of liability from which related but secondary forms, toldos, are derived. The father category, called foot, includes damage done in the animal's ordinary manner of movement while walking, for which the owner is fully liable. If the animal causes harm not by its own body, but through the force generated by its movement, such as by spraying pebbles as it walks, the owner bears only partial liability. Nonetheless, the Talmud emphasizes that this reduced liability remains a derivative of the category foot. To understand how this might bear on the theology at stake in the Yosef narrative, and why the Torah hints to it here, we turn to a passage from the Talmud addressing the reason for the surprising partial liability. Quote, Rava said, "What justifies the payment of half damages? If the force generated by the animal is treated as the animal's body itself, then the owner should be liable for a full compensation. But if the force generated by the animal is not treated as the animal's body itself, then the owner should not be liable even for half damages." Rava then said, in truth, a force generated by the animal is treated as the animal's body itself, and in principle the owner ought to pay full compensation. Liability is reduced to half damages in the case of pebble damage because the rabbis received this halacha by tradition, and not because it follows the logic of the standard laws of damage. Talmud, Baba Kama, 17b. In principle, the owner should bear full liability for damages resulting from his animal's force. Yet, though payment of full damages is just and right, the owner of the animal does not bear full liability in practice, for pebble damage is governed by a received tradition that reduces liability without any internal legal rationale. Justice is violated by design, suspended by tradition in a way that reason cannot defend. This legally sanctioned suspension of justice brings us to the idea of a necessary transgression embodied by Yosef, discussed earlier. Evil is introduced and later redeemed through this liminal figure who initiates deliberate entry into what reason cannot yet justify. He brings to his father evil report, Genesis 37:2, introducing imperfection into the perfect world of the tzaddikim, and through that breach a higher, previously unfathomable good eventually emerges. Quote, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." Ibid 50:20. If man were bound always to do only what reason identifies as right, just, and proper, the world would be sealed within the limits of human understanding. Nothing could enter from beyond it. No space would remain for God to act in ways that confound even the most righteous minds. Perfect justice, relentlessly applied, will leave no room for unforeseen wonders. God's goodness is not identical with man's goodness. What reason recognizes as good is only what lies within its grasp. What lies beyond it must originally appear as wrong. Yosef introduces evil as an opening, allowing what reason condemns to enter the story in order to create the conditions for a good that no human judgment could have produced. The same principle governs the law that suspends full payment for pebble damage. In principle, justice demands full payment. Force is like the body itself. And yet, the Torah commands that justice not be honored. The owner does not pay what reason requires. Justice is suspended, because the righteous law must sometimes withhold itself to allow God's hidden hand to emerge, accomplishing what no human justice could ever produce. There are times when man must not complete justice, resisting the full claims of human righteousness, so that the goodness not authored by man may enter the world. Just as Yosef's transgression makes redemption possible, so too this halachic anomaly preserves a space where divine action can exceed human reason. In the charged space between Yosef and the brothers, the unknown is sustained and fear of Hashem is cultivated. The same is true of the sanctioned refusal to fully honor justice enacted through half payment. Hence, the verse alluding to the law of pebble damage concludes with, quote, "and they were afraid," end quote. Yet, it is crucial that pebble damage remains a derivative of foot, the father category. The norm must be justice, full liability, measured order, the path embodied by Yaakov, the father who stands within law, clarity, and equilibrium. Yosef's path is exceptional and dangerous, a minority deviation that suspends justice only momentarily and only partially. Just as pebble damage never becomes its own primary category but is tethered to foot, so too Yosef's transgression must remain contained within the broader rule of justice. Fear of Hashem is cultivated in that narrow margin where justice is not abolished but carefully restrained, ensuring that the breach through which God acts does not overtake the world ultimately meant to be governed by the righteous and just law upheld by the tzaddikim.